Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the final bonus episode of Ancast's podcast. But this time, it's no normal episode, is it, Tom?
Is it? Hi, Ben. I'm here to interview you once again. We're at the end of season 2. Well done. You got through another batch. So we're talking about networks and the broadcast network.
Yes.
So I know you're a solo worker in a lot of cases, but you're also really into networks and stuff. So how does it work for you? How are you approaching the best of both worlds?
Yeah, so I guess sort of looking back, I never even sort of appreciated what a network of connections is and the value in it, basically. But when I came out of full time on a sort of redundancy basis, I can remember a colleague who also was made redundant saying, "Oh, it's all about connections, isn't it? All I do is connect with people, and then I'm getting interviews and stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, right, okay, yeah, never thought of that sort of thing."
Mm.
So then started, sort of building out my LinkedIn base. All the people I've worked with, currently or previously, I'd make some connections with. And then I'd make a conscious effort in any sort of network gathering. It could be a meetup, could be a more informal occasion, and sort of introduce myself and get to know people. And then off the back of it, naturally you probably link in with them and say, "Oh, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn," sort of thing. And then as the years went on, the soft side of making connections, it just becomes even more apparent, because it seems like that they're old colleagues that you can sort of your conversation can pick up where you've left off. And yeah, since then I've sort of made some good connections at Hawk, which is a sort of network of consultants. And in fact, these days, in any capacity, whether it's just an old friend or whether it's a fellow consultant, even sort of, giving work leads and consultancy gigs, that might be coming up, and giving them the inside track, actually, name of the podcast. But yeah, actually, just keeping those conversations alive, because people like the personal stuff. And so it's just a natural, it's almost like networking on that sort of low level. So you're just doing it by osmosis. It just sort of naturally happens in the end. And it pays dividends because people remember you. People will sort of pick up the phone and say, "Oh, we've got this opportunity coming up," something like that. Or, you can, with COVID these days, you might see people online. "Oh, he's made a comment. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah," and sort of reply to them on different sort of industry threads and stuff. And yeah, it's just an ever expanding sort of exponential growth of the network now, which is fantastic.
And how do you think that's changed? Like, of course, you've got your northern roots, but you've been based in London 10 years plus or whatever, and then everything's gone online in the last year or so. So, how's that kind of dynamic? You used to go to lots of events and trade shows and all the rest of that, and so all that's kind of on hold, or adapted and stuff. So, between your different areas of work and online, offline, how's that working out?
Um, yeah, so it has been difficult. I, definitely missed the face-to-face stuff, no doubt. But basically, yeah, it's all gone virtual. So it's more phone calls, it's more sort of instant messaging with people, more webinars. I've attended more webinars in the last sort of 18 months. And, if someone gives you the opportunity to jump on a call, then I took it, basically. I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's, put something in the diary." Whereas previously, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm too busy or something," and only deal with people face to face. But yeah, I mean, even for sort of an industry quiz, for example, in the early days of the pandemic, when it was winter time, I was sort of playing quizzes with, fellow consultants and stuff. So obviously,
One way to do it. Yeah.
well, you're not talking about sort of working the quiz, but it's just building up a rapport with people, and a bit more active in the chats and sort of threads and sort of posts that people putting up. So sort of pivoting, just sort of getting used to the sort of new way of people working and communicating these days. Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing you've got a decent understanding of actual networks, like broadcast networks for signals. And so, do you think there's much similarity between the way humans work as a network and the way, media and content work actually physically with vibrations and ones and
It's
zeros
like
and all that stuff?
connected, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to say, explain to people when I mean your network, your broadcast network. I don't mean the RJ45 Cat5, cables that go from your phone to your computer. I mean, your actual network of associates and colleagues and acquaintances, actually.
Yeah.
So I had a podcast with a LinkedIn profile writer, actually, and she said, you get different degrees of connection. You get first, second, and third degrees, for example, on LinkedIn. But even if you're an acquaintance, and you may have talked to someone briefly a few times, and they may be attending the next event, then it's okay to add them and include them in your broadcast network. In terms of actual sort of IT networks and it all being interconnected, I guess there is some similarities because everything's sort of global these days. So like I said, with the everything going virtual and online, it's basically we're reliant on these broadcast networks now to facilitate and make us able to still sort of converse and get things done no matter where we are in the world. And it's been a good time for those sort of collaborative tools and communication tools that use actual broadcast networks, and we've leveraged it as much as possible.
Brilliant. Since we last spoke, you managed to get your book out. Woohoo! Well done.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about that and how it was getting it together and what's in it. And tell us about the book.
I mean, yourself and Natsu, our illustrator in Japan, was good supporting me in the sort of authoring process, and it was always in the back of my mind for me to be a published author, which is a great accolade in many senses. So I'd already laid the groundwork a few years ago. I had some downtime, so I started putting together the structure of it. And when COVID hit, it was basically a huge opportunity to go and spend some time doing the stuff that you'd always wanted to do, but had such little time. But in the pandemic, everyone had loads of time. So I spent my evenings sort of transcribing, sort of putting ideas together, thinking about how to include other people in the book, because I always wanted to pay it forwards. That was the ethos behind the book, to help newcomers, sort of navigate the way into the industry. So it was fulfilling that. Maybe it's a moral obligation or something, but I felt, with what I've learned in the industry and the sort of experience I've had over these years, myself and the contributors who were on the first series of the podcast, I was thinking, maybe we can definitely, produce something that would be worthwhile and valuable for newcomers to read and digest and help them on their journey. So yeah, the actual writing was just a steady burn, you know, sort of chipping away at it basically. The graphics, yeah, needed that external help. It was good bouncing ideas with Natsu, the illustrator. I guess the biggest sort of thing was getting it on the platforms and sort of figuring out the file formats, and it all had to be edited in a certain way, and you know it might get rejected by some of these platforms. But I've managed to overcome all that. It got launched on Amazon in May. It got launched with Ingram Sparks, which is a global print distributor, so it's available to order in 40,000 different sort of independent bookshops, academic institutions, and universities and libraries and that sort of thing. So it's great for it to go wide, is the sort of term. And actually, Friday, 1st of October, it goes on iBooks, it goes on Google Books, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Scribed, and about half a dozen other different outlets. Because I didn't really want exclusivity. You know, people thinking Amazon, you know, it's the biggest marketplace for books. But because I want to spread my message everywhere and try and get this book in as many places as possible to help as many newcomers as possible, then I'm like non-exclusive now. I just want it. I want to get it out everywhere, basically.
Yeah.
So 1st of October is a big date in the diary, and then over sort of winter time before Christmas, the audio book's coming out. So I've got some narrators coming for that. I do a bit of the insights myself, so you'll hear my dulcet tones. But yeah, certainly the audio book is a growing market from what I can tell. And again, making sure I've got it in as many places as possible to help as many newcomers as possible, basically. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So back to networks again. Just you've recently got together with Hawk Media Partnership. So tell us a little bit about what Hawk's up to and what Hawk's all about.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been sort of associated with Hawk for a couple of years now, sort of around in its sort of infancy days when it was just getting started. But over the last sort of year, it's really, well, since the pandemic started, basically, it's really gone up several gears. The number of consultants has grown from, you know, a handful to sort of about 14 now at the moment. There's as many as, you know, there's a good number of concurrent projects going on at the same time that any number of consultants can sort of participate in. It could be a mix of consultants going on one project. And yeah, there's more of that in the pipeline, and also some different sorts of opportunities as well. So, you know, there's a big opportunity just come up, for example, with Narrative Capital. They've bought out the old Sony channels and content. So there's a big project underway to sort of think about how to repurpose that content online on sort of non-linear, maybe applications, stuff like that. But also some other niche stuff like security, broadcast security. And the customers, you know, the sort of not like the BBC and these huge, you know, conglomerates, but they're actually, you know, a decent size. You speak to the decision makers in those companies, and it's a sort of a pleasure to do the projects with, because you can you're engaged in sort of a real dynamic and vibrant sort of projects. So it's onwards and upwards with Hawk, yeah, for sure.
Great. And so the level that you're dealing with, you're talking to decision makers, and things can actually happen, and it's all rocking kind of thing.
Yeah, because you know, I've been involved in countless projects before, and the sort of huge, programs of work, big projects, but there's so many stakeholders involved, and so many decision makers. It's hard to sort of move forward sometimes. But with Hawk being sort of a nimble sort of broadcast consultancy, they've got a huge swathe of skills across the consultants. So they're able to, form a team fairly quickly, tend to sort of client needs that are urgent, for example, and bring the right people in for the right type of project. Yeah.
Yeah. As COVID's come, we've seen like the importance of a back catalogue and having plenty of content to hand, as filming and creating fresh stuff. All the production has kind of been troubled and frozen and put off and all the rest of it. And we've seen a lot more deals like buyouts, like you mentioned about buying whole catalogues of content and stuff. How do you think things have changed, and where they're going, and how people are noticing like the value of the content and the way people are working on it behind the scenes?
Yeah, so COVID's been difficult for all broadcasters. A complete halt in production, basically. After the first lockdown, people got to grips with it, put in the necessary precautions, and got the productions up and running again. But yeah, those wholesale sort of changes. People are just sort of consuming content differently these days. There's so many places you can watch moving images, basically. Then it's just a byproduct of that. It's give the customer what they want, or give the viewer what they want. And if that's sort of short disposable stuff, or sort of long form stuff that different companies have joined together and they're doing a catalog together, it's just, I guess, it's becoming cheaper for viewers to view, and so the broadcasters and the investors and the commercial people are figuring out how can we make it more worthwhile, and how can we still make it valuable, essentially. So yeah, it's not a surprise, and maybe COVID's accelerated that, basically.
So just tons and tons of demand, and so how can you meet that and still keep the quality, or keep some kind of value to it?
Yeah. So many devices that you can watch it on, and especially with the youngsters, the cable cutters, they don't have these huge, sort of platform deals where they have 300 channels and they're paying $100 a month, £75 a month. They'll just pay, $3.99 for the brand they want to see. So it's fragmenting, it's merging, it's doing all kinds of things.
It's an interesting time. So anything else you want to finish up with?
I guess I always like to finish my interviews with, how do you find your ideal role? And are you happy sort of doing the work that you do? And I think, as the years go on, I find myself more happy with what I do. I remember one interview that I wasn't successful for, and the interviewer says, if you keep looking, when you find the role that you really like, you'll definitely know. It'll be like a big flag for you. And since sort of going, solo and doing the consultancy and the contracting and the lecturing and stuff, I've really found it to be, the work I always thought, this would be my ideal sort of work.
Imagine yourself doing, kind of thing, yeah?
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like work, to be honest with you. People ask me for advice, as consultants, you're giving advice and, shaping things and guiding people and organizations. So yeah, I like what I do. I sort of love dealing with the people and technology, and never look back, and wouldn't change anything for the world.
It's great. You're a lucky man.
Yeah. If you want to sort of catch me online, I've got my own website at ancast.co.uk, and I've also got a profile at hawkmediapartnership.com.
Brilliant. Right. Well, thanks very much for telling us a little bit more about what you're up to, Ben.
No worries. Thanks for interviewing me again, Tom, and catch
Okay.
you on another series sometime, probably.
Yep. See you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.